Welcome to the Zions Bank Economic Update. My name is Joseph Mayans and joining me is Robert Spendlove. Today we're going to discuss the growing debt burden of American households and how the nature of that debt has changed since the Great Recession. Robert, the New York Federal Reserve recently put out a report on American household debt, indicating that Americans now have a collective $12.84 trillion in debt, which is the highest of all time. But what's interesting is when you look at that and the composition of that debt, how it's changed since the Great Recession. What are your thoughts on some of those trends that we've been seeing?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. Like you said, the total debt of American households, now we're talking about American families, has risen to all-time highs. It's risen every quarter for the past 12 consecutive quarters, and it has now surpassed the level during the financial crisis. During the high point in 2008. However, what's really interesting is the composition of that debt. So before the Great Recession and during the Great Recession, most of family debt was in their households, in their homes, and that was around 79%. Since the financial crisis, that's dropped all the way down to around 71%. But at the same time, what we've seen is an overall increase in non-household debt. So in car loans, in student loans, in credit cards, and that amount has risen by about $1 trillion over the past decade.
Right. So you mentioned student loans earlier. I know the impending student loan crisis has been on the front page of many newspapers around the country and is often talked about in Washington, D.C. And I know that this is a topic that you've written about before and are very interested in. Is the problem really as bad as everybody says it is?
It really is. Student loan debt is the only type of debt that grew through the Great Recession, and it is now the second largest source of debt for families in America, just only behind household debt. The other problem that we're seeing is student loan debt has grown, has actually more than doubled since 2008, and the average amount of student loan debt is now around $30,000. And then because of that, we're also seeing a big increase in student loan delinquencies, where some estimates put it as high as 25%. So it is a growing problem. We're seeing more student loans, higher student loans, and more defaults. And so it's something we need to be taking very seriously.
Yes, so you mentioned some of the problems. How do we solve some of those?
One of the biggest things that we need to be doing is we need to be educating individuals, families, students, borrowers about the risks of this kind of debt. Now, debt is a necessary thing. It's an important tool for families to use to be able to finance things. But they need to understand the risks associated with it, and they need to understand how to better manage debt and how to understand the impact of debt.
Right. Well, like you said, Robert, I mean, the policy implications are there. I think when this report came out, everybody was fixated on this is the highest debt number of all time. But what's interesting is how the debt has changed over time, and it has very real policy implications, going forward.
It also shows a lot about the nature of people's interaction with the economy and with their purchases.
That's right. Thank you, Robert.
Sure.
Thank you for joining us for this economic update. For more information and analysis, please visit zionsbank.com/economy.